I want to talk to you today about something the church rarely talks about: sex in teenagers. Church doesn't want to talk about it. Or for those churches that do talk about it, all they say is no, don't do it, it's bad. Don't, no, no, no. That's not helpful. So I want to unpack that a little bit, especially from a faith perspective, because even when you get sex education at school, you're not allowed to have value conversations and faith conversations because the schools won't allow those to happen. So you get the extremes. You get value faith people saying, no, don't do it, or you're a bad person if you do. And you get school teaching you maybe some anatomy, but you don't really get the inside part, the merging part of where values and sex happen. And that's something the church should be doing better about. So we're going to do that. The very first commandments in the Bible, if you look at the book of Genesis, is eat and multiply. Now, multiply is a really fancy word for just go have sex. Sex is natural. It's a human imperative. It's something, unless you're asexual, it is something that most people want to do, especially teenagers. And your body's primed for it. Your body's made for it. That's what you do, and it's tempting and it's tantalizing. And everywhere you look, sex is used for advertising. It's in movies. It's in music. It's a bombardment, and it gets a little bit wild after a while, especially when you're not sure how to think about sex. There's no how do you value sex besides the absolute denial of it being a thing. Sex is an exchange. It's another form of communication, really. And I know I'm going to make it sound really really boring, and it's actually not. It's really fun. But at its base element, it is two people being absolutely open with each other and connected physically. And ideally, what happens is that one person gives a little bit of their heart to the other person, and the other person gives a little bit of their heart back. So, in that exchange, they take a bit out of you, and you take a bit out of them, and you fill the empty spots. That's good sex. That's when it's mutual and there's consent and everybody is on board with it. Unfortunately, that's often hard to find because there's another type of sex that actually happens more frequently. And that's when you give a little bit of yourself away, but they're not giving anything back. So the more you take out of yourself and give away through sex, and not get anything back, the more holes you have in yourself, the more sad you feel, the more empty you feel. And I know there's a whole movement out there that says you can just use your body and who cares. But that's really not how it works. It doesn't matter what porn tells you or erotica tells you. There has to be that exchange in order to make it good and in order to make it meaningful. This is where the church comes in, where the value discussion comes in that we should have with you teenagers. If you're going to have sex, first of all, make sure you are protected. Make sure the other person is protected. There's a lot of birth control out there. Ask questions. Ask how it's done, because the first few times it's going to be awful because you don't know what you're doing. And that's normal. You learn by experience. And, a teenager recently told me, he said, how do I as a man learn to be better at sex? Because there's nothing out there to teach me. It's like, yeah, well, you got to get over your fear and start asking questions. It's like learning any other skill, and sex is a skill. But the value in it is that when you are in a sexual relationship, you want to be exchanging bits of yourself. You want to be exchanging um, emotion and thought and things that make the other person feel good. If you're into sex only for yourself, you don't really care about the person, and you just want to get off, then you're not having a very good experience. It's not a valued experience, and it's not as good as it could be. So before you do get into it, and I'm never going to tell you not to do it because I don't know your situation, and it might be a wonderful, mature, responsible, safe experience between you and a partner. But before you do that, spend some time talking. Spend some time getting your birth control figured out. Spend some time getting the setting and the timing and the atmosphere figured out. There's no such thing as being carried away by the spur of the moment. That may work in romance novels and movies, but that's not actually what the experience is going to be in real life. You will have time to talk and think about it, so take that time. And if you're too embarrassed to talk with the person you want to sleep with, then maybe that's a cue that now is not the time. And maybe you want to work into it a little slower, and that's okay too. There is absolutely no award with virginity and losing virginity. None. That's again, it's another social construct that really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter one bit. Value yourself. Be prepared to share your value with someone else if you feel like that's where your relationship is. But remember, if you keep giving away parts of yourself that are not being returned, you lose. You're just going to be more and more empty. And as God's child, that is not the plan. That was not what sex was devised for. Sex was made to make you feel connection and contented and enjoyment. And you deserve that. You deserve it. Even if other church people will tell you not to think about it, you deserve to talk about it and enjoy it.